I'm Megan.
And I'm Ciera, and welcome back to another TC2 video. It's been a long time since we posted on this channel, but the three of us, Megan, Maggie, and myself, have kind of decided to come back to this channel a little bit. No specific plans as far as a posting schedule or anything, but I think we've all kind of had the itch.
Yeah, we've all just been kind of like, you know, let's do something, let's figure stuff out. We've had like ideas pop up in our heads of videos that we want to work on. So for our first video kind of back, Ciera and I decided that we wanted to do a video where we're going to share 5 tips on how to get your splits or things that might be going on that are maybe preventing you from getting your splits all the way down.
If you guys have missed our faces over the last almost year, it seems like it's been, we haven't gone completely MIA. We are still posting on other places on the internet. Megan and I are actually finishing up our 3rd and final year of physical therapy school, and Maggie actually moved to Cincinnati, Ohio recently after graduating from undergrad, and she is working as a social media assistant for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Ciera and I also have a podcast called According To that we post regular weekly episodes on there.
But without further ado, we'll go ahead and kind of get into the 5 reasons you may not be getting your splits.
So the first thing that might be preventing you from getting your splits all the way down is if you're doing different compensations during the stretches that you're doing. So instead of actually targeting the muscle that you think you're targeting with those stretches, there's different things that you're doing where you're kind of cheating yourself out of the stretch. So let's talk about some of those. So we are going to take a brief look at the anatomy. I promise it's not going to be anything too crazy. We are focusing on the hamstrings just because this is one of the more common muscles that you need to stretch for your splits. So the hamstrings are a 2-joint muscle. They cross at your hip and they also cross at your knee. And the key thing to remember with stretching is you're trying to do the opposite of the muscle's action. So you can see that the action of the hamstrings is to do hip extension and knee flexion. So in order to do some stretching, we need to focus on hip flexion and knee extension. So let's take a look at how that plays out with some common hamstring stretches. Since we're also talking about compensating during stretches, I think it's worth mentioning that more motion when you're doing your stretch does not necessarily mean that you're getting more of a stretch, and hopefully we can point that out to you with some of these examples. So this is a very common hamstring stretch. However, as you can see, I'm pushing down with my chest, which is the more motion that we are talking about, when I should be focusing on just straightening my knee out. By focusing on my knee rather than my chest, I should be able to more specifically target the hamstrings while I'm stretching. Here's another very common stretch that people do for hamstrings. Oftentimes people are focused on reaching for their toes and then compensate by rounding out their back, whereas you really just need to focus on your pelvis position. So here I'm holding onto my pelvis, my back is staying flat. This is a very, very intense hamstring stretch, but I'm not reaching all the way for my toes.
So the second thing that you might be doing wrong is not incorporating different types of stretching into your stretching routine. There's actually a couple different types of stretching, so let's go ahead and talk about those.
So one type of stretching that you're probably familiar with is static stretching, or just holding a position for an extended period of time. Another type is dynamic stretching, commonly seen in warm-ups, where you just move your extremities through a full range of motion. And another one is ballistic, where you kind of move in small amplitude pulses throughout a stretch. So research has actually shown that doing long duration static stretching has the greatest benefit for improving tissue extensibility, which is exactly what you want when you're trying to get your splits. So try and spend most of your time doing those stretches. You could also try incorporating a technique into your static stretching called PNF, where you activate the muscle that you're stretching into resistance for a few seconds and then relax, and are usually able to go into a deeper stretch.
The other big unknown is how often should you be stretching, how many times a day, how many times a week, how many weeks before you are going to see any progress. So I took a look at some research just to see what I could find, and here's what I learned.
Research shows that for static stretching, if you do 2 to 4 sets of 15 to 30 second holds, roughly 2 to 3 times a week, then you're probably going to be doing it pretty well. A reminder that these stretching programs are probably going to need to be more on the week to month long scale rather than just days. Now, 2 to 3 days a week is kind of the minimum recommendation. However, if you're stretching it more frequently, then that's only going to be more beneficial. I found a lot of different time frames mentioned for how long you should expect to be stretching before you see results. And I did find that in terms of hamstring length, it's going to probably be along the 6 to 8 week range. So just to give you an idea of what to expect. I also wanted to point out that I found some research saying that stretching anywhere from 2 to 8 minutes per muscle group is okay, but if you start going up towards 10 minutes, you're probably going to get more guarding and it's not going to be beneficial. In general, it might be a good idea to space your stretching out throughout the day into multiple sessions.
So the fourth thing that you might be doing wrong is focusing on the wrong muscle groups. I think for splits especially, it can be really easy to get stuck in hamstring land, and there's a lot of different muscles that need to be stretched out to do your splits. So you need to find out which muscles are not stretched out on you.
Alright, so if you want to figure out which muscles are tightest on you, let's first talk about what muscles are involved with doing your regular split. So, your front leg is going to have your hamstring and your calf involved, and your back leg is going to be mainly focusing on stretching out your hip flexors. If you notice you have tight hamstrings, here are a few of our favorite hamstring stretches. So, you've seen this one plenty throughout the video so far. It's just working on stretching that front leg hamstring, trying to keep the knees straight, hips flexed. This one is essentially the same thing, but from a chair. And this last one is kind of looking like that PNF stretch, but you can use a belt or a towel or something like that to try and stretch your hamstring out yourself. For those with tight hip flexors, one stretch you could do involves getting into a 90-90 position with your legs and then focusing on rotating your pelvis backwards and feeling a stretch along the front of your back leg, and that's the hip flexor that you're stretching. You could also try incorporating a pigeon pose, which will stretch the hip flexor of your back leg. And then let's talk a little bit about your calf muscle, specifically your gastrocnemius. I know, long name, but bear with me. So this is also a 2-joint muscle that crosses at your knee and at your ankle. And the actions that it performs at your knee is knee flexion, and at your ankle it performs plantar flexion, or just pointing your toes. So in order to stretch this muscle out, you need to work on trying to extend your knee and dorsiflex, or just pull your toes towards your nose. So some stretches you could do for this muscle includes trying to drop your heels off of a raised surface, again keeping your knees straight. You can also find a wall and stretch your calf this way, keeping in mind that doing this stretch is going to stretch your gastroc on your back leg. If we switch it up and you put your toe up against the wall, it's going to stretch your front leg.
And the fifth and final thing that you might be doing wrong is thinking that you're not getting your splits just because of muscle tension, when in reality there's a couple things that could be going on. One of them could be your muscles aren't getting stretched out. Another thing could be related to neural tension with your nerves in your body.
So let's talk a little bit about the sciatic nerve. This nerve travels down the back of your leg, past your hip, past your knee, down into your foot, and if it's not moving properly within your body, it can also be a source of tension. That tension can cause pain and then subsequently limit your range of motion. So how might you differentiate if it's neural tension or muscle tension causing the problem? I'm going to walk you through this fun little test. So first, stand up and identify those bony little landmarks on the front of your hips. Once you identify those, go ahead and lay down on your back, get a friend. Either you or your friend is going to feel for that bony landmark while your friend then raises your leg straight up into the air. You want to feel for a point of tension and note if that's before or after your pelvis starts to move. If you feel the tension before your pelvis starts to move, that could indicate more of a neural pathology and you might need to do something for that. If you feel your pelvis start to move after, then that could indicate it's more of a hamstring muscle length issue. If you notice it was more of a nerve problem, you want to start incorporating some nerve glides into your stretching. So what I'm showing you here is an example of a nerve glide. You're going to lift your leg straight up so that your knee is straight in the air and then straighten your leg out as much as you can from there. And then you want to just kind of go back and forth between pointing and flexing your toes.
So there you have it. Those are 5 reasons you might not be getting your splits. If you try any of these out and implement anything and notice any changes, let us know.
Also, this is a newer style video for us on this channel, but if you guys liked it and want to see more in the future, then let us know in the comments down below. We're pretty open to what videos we want to post on this channel. The big thing is we're just trying to find videos that we enjoy making and are inspired to make and can have fun editing and stuff.
That's the entry criteria. If you guys have any ideas, again, we are kind of open.
And yes, this was
anything.
like stretching related, so still kind of, reminiscent of our gymnastics and cheer roots. That may continue to be the case. Maybe we'll kind of still delve into other areas, but we'll see what happens.
Let us know what you guys want to see, and then we'll also kind of take into account what we want to make. And that's kind of the biggest thing with any videos we post on this channel. We just want to have fun doing it. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Feel free to share with anyone in your life who is trying very hard to get their splits. Maybe it'll help them out. And we will see you guys whenever we post next on this channel, or you guys can check us out wherever else we are on the internet.